Hello, everyone. Welcome to an edition of Talking Cinema with Julius Freeman and Sean Malone. James is not here tonight. He had a prior engagement, so he'll be joining us when we move the show. Which, by the way, we have to talk about, Sean, you and I. What day of the week next week we're going to move the show, so that way we can make it official. You could do it. You could let me know on the private comment. You don't have to announce it yet until we, you know, I guess agree because you're the last one that's we're waiting on.
Last man standing.
Yeah, last man standing. But yeah, he's not here with us this week because, like I said, he has a prior engagement. But he will be joining us the next episode, which will be Underrated and Overrated Directors Volume 2. So stay tuned. Yeah, stay tuned for that one. That one's going to be another good episode because we're going to probably surprise each other once again of the list that we make as to who's underrated and overrated in terms of directing. So tonight, Sean and I decided to change and switch things up a little bit by not talking too much about cinema.
Talking something else.
Talking sitcoms. Sitcoms is, and still is, it has been, a staple in American culture. It started with I Love Lucy in the 50s, I believe, right? Am I right or wrong in that assessment?
I want to say late 50s, yeah.
Yeah, late 50s.
Really know this stuff.
Yeah, television was set up, in the 40s? That's when it was kind of starting to take off. So the 40s was the time when, it was new. It was new technology. The industry was growing. They really didn't know what they had yet. The only thing they did know was they had airtime to sell their products. That's the only thing that was for sure, was that corporations and companies were like, finally, we could sell our product to more people, advertise to more people. But of course, it can't just be all advertising because it'd be extremely boring. So they had to fill it with stuff, and that meant programs like Kraft, I think it was called the. Hold on, let me see here. The Kraft Television Theater.
The Kraft Television Theater.
Yeah, which was an anthology drama where a lot of people got their start. A lot of people who later became famous got their start. James Dean is listed as one on there. Rod Serling was a writer there. Patty Chayefsky, and we spoke about Patty Chayefsky for Network. Paul Newman. All sorts of actors who later became big started here in the Kraft Television Theater, Mystery Theater, or the Drama Theater, whatever you want to call it. And it was very successful. But that was the beginning of like, okay, well, this is new, this is fresh. Let's see where we can go from here. And then eventually, comedy came into the picture. And I think is I Love Lucy the first of its kind?
To my knowledge, right? It's the first multi-camera sitcom. I know that for sure.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's there might be some pioneering other shows that have the sitcom format, but not the multi-camera sitcom format.
The Honeymooners. That's right. The Honeymooners is a comedy, and that was a single camera show, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah, and actually, let's check the date on that.
To the moon, Alice. To the moon.
Okay, so I Love Lucy was 1951 to 1957.
Okay, 6 years. That's a good run.
The Honeymooners was 55 to 56.
Okay.
Surprisingly, it was only on the air for a year. There's only 40 episodes of it. Wow, I never knew that.
Yeah, and the reason for that, I know the reason why. It's because the star of the show,
Jackie
Gleason. Yeah, he didn't want to do any more than 1 year because he was the type of, which is my kind of guy, by the way. This is the kind of guy I like, the kind of artist that I like. He didn't want to burn out the show. He said that I had a story, I had an idea. This is what I wanted to say at this point in my life, but I didn't want to do it for years and years and years. I just wanted to do it for this one time because I wanted to get out of my system, because obviously it's based off his upbringing in ghetto New York as a child. So there was some connection there to his childhood, which is why it was a lot more funnier, because he came from that world. And so he was the type of artist that I like, which is he was on it for a while, and then he's like, I'm done. I did what I had to say, and I'm going to move on to something else. And that's why his career spanned the way it did, and that's why he's so revered even to this day. Like, even I know who Jackie Gleason is, and he's way before my time.
And he's immortalized in the Back to the Future film.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
He's immortalized in Back to the Future cartoon.
Now we can watch Jackie Gleason while we eat.
Yeah. I know this one. It's a rerun.
What's a rerun? You'll find out.
So, Honeymooners. I maybe was that the first one. I don't even know what the.
No, I Love
Happy
Lucy.
Jam Jam.
I Love Lucy was 1951. Honeymooners was 55. So.
55. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess it's safe to say that I Love Lucy was the first of its kind.
That's always been my understanding.
Okay.
You mentioned last time that Lucy, she came from a theater background, and her husband, Desi Arnaz, they were creative partners and business partners, and he wanted her wishes to be fulfilled, which she wanted to be able to perform like she was in theater in front of an audience, and she didn't want to do take after take after take.
Right.
And so they developed this way of filming this show, which was like, a large set with multiple rooms that was, that was basically everything was lit already. And there were multiple. Oh, come on, Happy Jam Jam. That's you're canceled, Happy Jam Jam. So there was. So there was that innovative aspect to it, right? And filming with multiple cameras. Another thing that Lucy was ahead of her time on was, she wanted to film the show on film. She wanted to make sure they shot it on 35 millimeter film, and not just do and I forget what I should probably know these things, but there was a way for them to transmit a broadcast signal, through the camera. That didn't involve actually filming it, right? And creating a camera negative. Yeah, and then it would just be broadcast, and then there was a machine that would film basically what was being broadcast. And that would be sort of the archive or the record, but it was literally like a film camera pointed at a screen that would then film what was being broadcast. Lucy didn't want to do it that way because you lost a lot of fidelity and quality by filming just the broadcast off of the screen. And she wanted to film the show on 35 millimeter film and then broadcast it. And then, of course, she was like thinking way ahead, because that was what enabled the show not only to still look great today, but to be syndicated and to be seen by so many people. To be syndicated and shown over and over and over and over again. So this is the cast. Fred and Ethel always cracked me up.
Yeah. I do know that the actors, Vivian Vance, she was very jealous of Lucille Ball, because apparently Vivian Vance wanted the role of Lucy. She wanted to be the star of the show. And she was a great comedic actress in her own right as well. But I mean, Lucille Ball was one of these actresses who just, it's like what they call it in the industry, right? She just had it. She had it, and there's just no way you could outshine her because of how talented and skilled. Not only was she talented, she was also skilled in her comedic timing. Like, she knew exactly what to do and how to do it in the right way, so that way she could get the genuine, authentic laughter from the live audience. That was it. Live audience the first season, or did they start doing that after the first season?
To my understanding, it was always a live audience.
It was always live audience, right? Yeah, that makes sense.
Another story I've always heard about I Love Lucy is that they're kind of one of the first interracial couples on TV, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Because he's Cuban American and she's white. So,
right.
And somebody had said to her, "Well, you can't put that on TV. No one will believe it." And no one will believe that a white lady would be married to this Cuban guy, And
right.
And Lucy's response was, "Well, it's reality. Like, why wouldn't they believe it? Like, we are married in real life,
Right. Yeah, exactly. And for the most part, people didn't really care. Really.
Oh yeah, no, I don't think it was. They never made a big deal. Of course, he had his band and he played the nightclubs and they kind of made jokes about him. Whenever he got angry with her, he would yell at her in Spanish. So that they integrated that aspect into the humor, but it was never an issue in the show. Like everyone just accepted Ricky as he's this successful musician and they're married.
And also, I think it also helped that even though he had the heavy accent, he played well off his wife, and also it also helped that he was light skinned as well. I think. Because I think if he was an African Cuban, I don't think it would have. I think people were like, nah, we're not doing that.
Sure. Yeah.
So I know it was a different time, and that's just the way it was. So it's not please don't cancel Lucy because I love Lucy, and it's just the way it is, guys. But yeah, I think that helped too. The fact that he at least looked the part. Maybe he didn't speak it, but he looked the part, and I think that's what helped a lot for the producers to be like, okay, let's pull the trigger on this, and it ended up being a massive success from what I hear.
Go back one. That's Carl Freund. He's the cinematographer that developed
okay. I was wondering who's this guy.
Yeah. He's a great cinematographer. He actually shot movies like Frankenstein and
okay. So he was like on the block.
Yeah, he had a beautiful artistic style, and he developed this kind of more flat comedic lighting for the I Love Lucy show that is still used in sitcoms today. Like, you watch any sitcom even like you watch a modern sitcom like Last Man Standing or something like that. They use very similar foundations for how they light the set.
Now, let me ask you something.
Mm-hmm.
Is a show like American Family considered a sitcom, considering that it's not in front of a live audience, that it's actually shot like a drama? Where there's no live audience. It's like a film, essentially.
Do you mean Modern Family? Do you mean Modern Family?
What did I call it?
American Family.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Modern Family. I'm thinking of another show.
So those are known as single camera sitcoms. The idea of a sitcom is a situation comedy. Like you're going to put a group of characters in a situation and then you're going to mine comedy from it. Like there's always a premise to a sitcom. Like for instance, like Who's the Boss? The premise is, this like retired ball player goes to be a nanny for this like professional woman. Right. And then literally like 7 or 8 seasons of just that, of mining comedy out of that situation. So yes, it's absolutely a sitcom. It's just shows like Modern Family, Arrested Development, 30 Rock. They're all known as single camera sitcoms.
Okay.
And actually Arrested Development was, and there are other single camera sitcoms before Arrested Development, but Arrested Development was definitely like a trendsetter. Like after Arrested Development came out, you saw a lot more single camera sitcoms come out because it was such a popular show. Yeah. But yeah, this gentleman, Carl Freund, if you're watching, look him up. He's a real accomplished artist.
So essentially, he was the godfather of what we know today as a sitcom.
Yeah,
multiple cameras. Not the lights set up in a certain way. It's I guess standardized ways nowadays would be known as, and the actors show up on set and they shoot and they do their thing. Is that my understanding? Yeah,
because like he's really known for pioneering the lighting and how they lit the sets. And it's like if you're shooting a dramatic film, you're gonna light a scene and everything's about that scene, like where the blocking is in the scene, where the actors are in the scene. Carl Freund developed this lighting system that was just like, I'm going to light this entire set, right? The kitchen, the bedroom, the dining room, and then actors can just move freely within that space. There wasn't a real need to like adjust. Well, I don't know. I wasn't on the set of Lucy, but there would be less of a need to adjust for blocking and things like that, because everything was just like kind of pre-lit. So that's my understanding as to what his contribution was. But the reason we're doing this show isn't necessarily to talk about all the technical stuff, but just because Julius and I were like, hey, let's talk about sitcoms. Like he had sitcoms that he grew up with that he loved. Right. I had sitcoms that I grew up with that I loved. and then also a few years ago, I've grown to love sitcoms more and more. I actually view them as like a great American art form. I used to look at them as like kind of like lowbrow, like they're not really artistic, you know. They're just kind of like, you know, low hanging fruit, cheap humor, you know, that kind of thing. And I've really grown over the years to appreciate it as its own art form and realize that it's a very American. It's like musical theater or jazz. It's a very American art form. Yeah. So Julius, what we're going to do a lightning round, if I may.
Okay.
Go for it. So, if you can name 2 sitcoms, we already talked about I Love Lucy. I think that takes care of the 50s for us.
Okay.
Name 2 sitcoms from the 60s that you like.
The 60s that I like. Wow.
You do one, I'll do one, and then.
Yeah, gosh, I don't think I have one.
You told me one before we went on the air. You said the star of it was cute.
Oh, Bewitched. That's right. Bewitched was okay. All right. I had to go back there. Bewitched was one of my favorites. Nick at Night. You know, when Nickelodeon played reruns after 9:00, they would play reruns of old shows after 8:00 or 9:00. I can't remember what time it was.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
Nick at Night. Nick at Night was my go-to at night because I would stay up later than normal and my parents would not care. So as long as I didn't stay over
because you're like
11 o'clock, then I was okay because I still woke up to go to school anyway. I didn't drag my feet in the morning, so I think they allowed me to stay up late because he still gets up, and so that's why they let me stay up late. But yeah, Nick and Night for sure. Bewitched. As we talked earlier, the reason why I liked that show wasn't so much that I thought it was funny. It was more because I liked looking at the
Elizabeth
star of the
Montgomery.
show.
Yeah,
Elizabeth Montgomery. She was very easy to look at, even as a young man, a young preteen. I was like, wow, I just can't stop looking at this woman.
Yeah, she's a pretty lady.
I can't stop looking at her, and I don't know why she wasn't such a bigger star in Hollywood in terms of movies and what have you. But I mean, how can you not? Hold on, let me find the picture. How can you not love?
Yeah,
this face.
This face. Yeah, she's a beauty.
How can you not like watch the show and be like, I don't want to watch the show because you know this I don't like looking at her. But I mean, just look at that. This is like a mesmerizing.
My dad, you know, my dad grew up in this era, so he was like, oh yeah, Elizabeth Montgomery, she was real cute, you know, and it's funny because like I had a crush on her too because my dad watched her like in real time when he was a kid. I watched her when I was watching Nick at Night. Right. For me, Nick at Night was more of a summertime thing where I was allowed to stay up late. But it was funny because like my parents didn't care at all. I don't think because it was summer. I didn't have to go to school the next day, and plus I was watching like all these wholesome like sitcoms from the Dick Van Dyke Show and stuff like that. So they weren't like worried about what I was watching. So Dick Van Dyke Show is another great one from that era. Did you watch that one, Julius?
I didn't watch Dick Van Dyke. I didn't really like it.
Okay.
Although I will say, I don't know if it was 60s. It might have been 60s. But I did love the Andy Griffith Show. I don't know if Andy Griffith was a 60s show or not.
I think Andy Griffith was late 50s, early 60s, but we should look it up.
Yeah, we should.
Let me, I want to share this with you real quick, and I'll look up the Andy Griffith Show.
I wanted to show this real quick.
60 through 68. Sorry to interrupt you.
Okay. No, that's fine. That's fine. So yeah, that was one show that I did like. I did enjoy because it was very not only was it wholesome, but I liked a lot of the lessons they had in that show. It seemed very down to earth for me, like something like I could relate to as a Latino boy, even though Andy Griffith is not, or like there's no person of color in that show. It's all white people, but the values of their family values and like the stories and the lessons, I could identify with that because that's universal stuff. You know, that's, you know, characters going through, like, you know, children growing up and dealing with certain things. And of course, Andy Griffith being the wise, you know,
Father
Was he
figure.
sheriff? He was a sheriff, right? He was a sheriff, if I remember correctly. Of a
And
small
Barney
town.
Fife, man, with that
Barney Fife, man.
he only had that one bullet.
And he was a single dad.
Oh.
He was a single dad as well. So that it was like close to my surrounding, because I even though I wasn't raised by a single parent, I had some friends who were raised by single parents, so that's why it was a bit more. I connected with a bit more with that, even though it was totally like foreign to me. But like I said, the universality of it was the lessons in the show. So that was one of my other favorites.
My grandparents liked the Andy Griffith Show a lot, and I remember watching it. I wasn't one of the ones I got obsessed with or watched a lot, but yeah, Barney Fife, Don Knotts was great in that show.
Can't forget about Opie either.
Gotta love
Opie. Ron Howard.
Gotta love little Ronnie Howard. Yeah. So yeah. But can you show this Dick Van Dyke picture real quick?
Sure.
So Dick Van Dyke Show is one of my favorite shows, and I don't know, maybe it's because it was like a showbiz show. It was one of those like behind the scenes showbiz shows, like and I love 30 Rock. It's like my favorite show ever. So Dick Van Dyke Show, I think, is like a pre 30 Rock, where they work for this kind of crazy, variety show, talk show host, Alan Brady, played by the brilliant Carl Reiner. And they have that gag. There's this great gag where Alan Brady, it turns out one episode you find out he's bald and he wears wigs. And he's like so vain and so self-obsessed. And Rob is sort of Rob is his head writer, but Rob is like very like, level-headed and like normal compared to like someone like Alan Brady, the star of the show. I love Maury Amsterdam as I think Buddy is his name in the show, and then Rosemary, his two co-writers. I love their like banter when they're in the writer's room. And then Mel, I think it's Richard Deacon, when he comes in, he always, Maury Amsterdam's character always knocks on Mel and makes fun of him for being bald. And I mean, it's just ruthless, like insult comedy, every time Mel comes in the room. And then the last thing I'll say about it is, well, Mary Tyler Moore is just, to me, just as lovely as Elizabeth Montgomery.
Mary Tyler Moore was also easy to look at, I'll admit.
And she's such a beloved comic actress. Like she just oozes like sympathy and like she does what any great actor should do. Like, Tom Holland from the Spider-Man movies.
Yeah.
I think that guy's a great actor because when he emotes on screen, I feel like what he's trying to convey. Like I empathize with him because he makes me feel it because he's such a good actor. And I feel the same way about Mary Tyler Moore. She's such a good actress that you just feel whatever she's feeling, And then of course, Dick Van Dyke he was one of the most brilliant physical comedians of his generation.
That's what I hear. That's what I always heard about him. Like I said, I was never a huge fan, so I have not seen his genius or his talents. But I'll take your word for it because even though I've never seen the show, I still know about it because of how popular it was when it was out, and also because it was on Nick at Night as well. It was always see it on the TV guide or coming up next, Dick Van Dyke Show, that kind of deal. So
right.
I knew it was a big deal.
Can I share this real quick?
Sure, man. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I guess I have to do it. 1 second. I'm not as professional at sharing things as.
It's all good. It's all good. Hold on. Let me remove your screen so that way you can do your thing. I'm going to share this real quick, even though we might get flagged. This is one of my favorites right here. You know what this is.
If we keep the sound off, we should be okay, right?
I don't know. I think if I pause it every once in a while and talk over it, I think we should be fine. But
okay,
I just want to talk about comedic timing here.
Okay.
So
Is this one of her moments where she tries to get Ricky to cast her in something? Just like Candy.
I mean, come on. They don't make him like that no more, man. They don't make him like that. It's just so. It was so subtle. It's so good. It just what was that? Like maybe 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And look how much I was laughing. And I've seen this like 100 times, and still cracks me up because of how well done she like performs that. Like you mentioned, about Tom Holland when he emotes and you feel it. And she has the same talent, which is she emotes it, and you're like, you can't help but laugh about how well she emotes, her what she's feeling at the moment. Which is that's the episode where she's trying to get cast in one of get a commercial.
You know who's also like that for me? I know that's kind of like that's a weird parameter to put on an actor. Like these like an actor like Tom Holland or Mary Tyler Moore just makes me feel what they're feeling. But John Candy always made me feel like that.
John Candy, yeah, he was a good one.
I always felt when John Candy was acting on screen, like I felt like I understood exactly his emotions, Let's see. I wonder what was really in the spoon.
Maybe it was something terrible and they didn't tell her and she couldn't cut it, or I don't know, or that ID crisis, or maybe she was just freaking that's how talented she was. She knew exactly what to do during that scene. So you ready? You ready, Sean, to do this?
Sure. Yeah. I just want to show the intro to the Dick Van Dyke Show, which is, and I'll keep the sound off, but
no, play it. Screw it. Play it.
No? Okay.
If it goes down, it goes down. Who cares?
Here he is.
Oh yes, the famous. I know that intro.
And Mary Tyler Moore.
Rewind that sure. Real quick.
Yeah.
I love the sound effect. He falls over. I've always been. Yeah, I love that. The little piano sound. That I always love that comedic sound whenever anyone will fall down during that time, that era.
He would, if he had been born in the silent movie era, he would have been a silent movie actor. He would have been he would have been a silent movie comedian. He's such a physical comedian. He's a great dancer actually too.
Really?
Yeah. He's a very good dancer. Very good dancer. You see him. You see a little of that in him.
And ID Crisis actually mentioned that as well.
Yeah, Mary Poppins. Yeah, when he dances with the penguins. Yeah, he's a great performer. Even at age 90-something, he made a cameo in Mary Poppins Returns, and he jumped up on a desk and danced, and it's just
wow.
He's an impressive performer.
90 years old. At 90 years old,
he's 91 or 2 when he did the cameo. Yeah.
Well, did he already pass away?
No, he's still with us.
Oh, he's okay.
I think so. Yeah, I think he's still with us.
Okay.
But and then I want to mention this other show I watched before we moved to the 70s or 80s.
Yeah.
F Troop. Did you ever watch F Troop?
F Troop. Never heard of it. I've never
heard of F Troop. It came on Nick at Night also.
F Troop. You know what's funny about F Troop? In my neighborhood, growing up, there was a local gang called F Troop.
Really?
Believe it or not, yeah. It was in the southeast side of the city, and if you claimed any other gang other than F Troop in that area, you were doomed. So F Troop was definitely a gang. I don't know why. I don't know if they got it from the show. I don't know how they got the name, but there is a gang in my old neighborhood that's called F Troop. So maybe it was part of the show, because I know they were created back in the 60s. So maybe they did. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Because what is the show? I'm curious. Now I'm curious to know what F Troop was all about.
Okay, so F Troop.
It's so weird for me to say that.
It was a show about a guy who's like a captain in the United States cavalry, and and he was stationed to command this outpost. It was like the far western outpost, right, in like the late 1800s, post Civil War. And but the guy's an idiot, and like he's an inept commander, and all the comedy is derived from the fact that all basically the Union soldiers, they're all kind of just dumb.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Like they're not very, they're not tough. They're not tough frontiersmen. They're just kind of like dumb, inept, but funny and lovable. And there's an Indian tribe that lives outside the gates of the what do you call it? The fort.
Okay.
But the Indians are like very like they're like really good businessmen, and they're always like setting up new businesses and like kind of taking advantage of the white people. But it was just a fun show when I was a kid. I for some reason like was drawn to it. So
why? I'm curious to know why. What was the
it was just silly. It was absurd and silly. It was kind of like McHale's Navy, or like Hogan's Heroes, like where you just kind of had like, in Hogan's Heroes, they're like all these POWs, and the Nazis run the POW camp, but it's such a ridiculous premise because the Nazis or the Germans are like nice to them. And the Germans are like, they're so nice to them that they're like worried that they won't like them, and I guess it's taking a very serious situation, like a military situation, and just turning it into a farce, basically.
I see.
Okay. Yeah.
Before we move on, I actually did come up. I have another show that I used to love as a kid. You might be a little surprised. Maybe not. Considering that you've known me a few years now, and maybe this will make sense to you once I show it here.
Oh, love the show. Get Smart.
Yeah, great show. Get Smart. This is another show I love from the 60s.
Yeah.
I loved it. I love this character, and I was so happy to find out that he was the voice of Inspector Gadget, because that was one of my favorite cartoons as a kid.
Yeah.
And the fact that he was the voice of Inspector Gadget was like that. It makes sense to me. I was like, that it makes sense. Yeah, because this guy kind of played like a buffoon in the show, kind of like luck was always on his side type of deal. I love that. I love that.
Like a Pink Panther kind of.
Yeah, where he's at the right place at the right time every time, even though he's like he's not the smartest, knife in the tool in the kitchen, right? So that's the same goes.
Did you see the movie?
I love that.
Steve Carell.
I did not want to watch the movie. Didn't want to. Watch
it's not bad, Julio. It's not bad. It's like,
I don't know.
It's pretty good. Like they could have done a lot worse adapting this, and Steve Carell was, I think, the perfect person to reprise this role, or to, I guess, reboot this role.
Steve Carell is one of those actors that he overstayed his welcome.
Okay.
In terms of his I agree with you. Happy Jam Jam, no remake. I just don't like remakes, or leave the show the way it is. Like, it was fine the way it was. Let's keep it as an archive. Let's watch the reruns. Enjoy it for what it was. But if you're telling me it's good, I might watch it as one day if I have nothing to watch. I might watch that.
That's, what? Next time you find yourself at home with a cold for 2 days, that's a movie you can watch. It's one of those sick day movies.
How's it going, Ryan? Nice to have you with us.
But yeah, it was a great show. Agent 99 too was great.
I never seen that one.
No. She was Agent 99 was his
Oh! I thought it was a show. It's been a while since I've seen.
She was the female spy who was.
That's right. Who was competent? The competent.
Who was
spy.
Competent?
Yeah.
Yes.
This is great stuff. This is one of my favorites as well, up there. For those of you joining us, we're talking about our favorite sitcoms. So, if you have favorite sitcoms from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, please share in the comment section, and we can either talk about it, or we can agree or disagree. It doesn't really matter. So if you do have some of your favorites, don't be shy to post them. So okay, I think that covers the '60s because I can't think of any other show. I mean, there's Gilligan's Island. There's all these other shows, but I was never a big fan of Gilligan's Island. I thought it was a stupid show, personally.
I think we covered the highlights for me personally.
Yeah. Because the other shows are kind of like okay, like Bonanza and Beverly Hillbillies. They're kind of like they're the only thing I liked about Beverly Hillbillies was the song. The theme song was that's the only thing I liked about it.
The one thing I'll say about that show is my grandpa thought Granny was funny. I remember that. You know Granny in Beverly Hillbillies? Like, the old lady.
she was pretty funny. What other show? There was another show. Gosh, I can't think of it right now. Oh, Munsters. Munsters was pretty good.
I liked the Munsters.
Yeah, but it was like, once again, it overstayed its welcome. It was like you can only go so far with this kind of show, and the same thing with the Addams Family. You can only go so far with that kind of show. But yeah, the Get Smart, the Andy Griffith Show, and what was the third one that I chose? Those were the ones that were really Bewitched. Those are the ones that I really enjoyed as a kid.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
So, yeah, very good stuff. So,
I don't know that I have a lot for the 70s. Do you have any for the 70s, Julius?
I do.
All right. Lay them on me.
Here we go. Here's my first one.
Okay.
Oh, look, you have a pro buddy.
Yeah.
Dick Van Dyke, another Dick Van Dyke fan.
Alf. We'll get to Alf in the 80s.
We'll get to Alf. Batman. We're gonna talk about Batman.
Sure.
Batman was fun, but again, overstayed its welcome. It was how much can you get with the pow and the zam and the zooms and stuff? It got annoying for me after a while.
You know what I love in Batman is the shot they always did where they were climbing. They were clearly like just turning the camera sideways.
Yeah. Right.
I always enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah, and it always had different cameos, which was cool.
And great villains in Batman. Cesar Romero and Eartha Kitt, and a lot of great performances for like the villains of Batman.
Here we go.
70s, buddy. Lay it on me, man. I thought you were gonna say this. Yeah.
I got to. It's talk about
pushing
the envelope. Talk about taking it there and being bold and going, you know what? America's ready for a realist character. America's ready for the racist, the lovable racist. Hey, at some point, Ryan, you're going to take so much of something before you're like, oh, okay, dude, it's old. Like, try something else. Just do something else. So, I'm very picky, Ryan, very picky. But yeah, All in the Family for me was go ahead.
No, I watched this show a little bit, and I have an appreciation for what the formula was and everything. And of course, I remember Meathead, right? And he was constantly in that armchair, just spouting his opinion about everything. But what did you like about the show, Julius?
It reminded me of my stepdad.
Okay.
Because my stepdad was the guy in the chair giving his opinion about everything. And maybe not as harsh.
Right.
My stepdad was harsher because Archie Bunker was constricted by television. Right. He couldn't really say everything. But my stepdad could say everything because he wasn't on a TV sitcom. So that's what I meant by harsher. So Archie Bunker he just, like I say, he reminded me of my stepdad a lot because of how he just is straight out, not afraid to say it. He's not afraid to say what he thinks. And, if you have a problem with that, hey, that's your fault, not mine, because you can't take what I'm telling you.
Yeah.
And that's what, in a nutshell, that's what my stepdad was. He was that kind of guy. He's the one that pretty much molded me to who I am today, which was I have the same approach, which is if I tell you something that's true and you get offended by it or mad, then that's not my fault. That's your fault, because what I'm telling you is true. I'm not giving you my opinion. I'm just telling you what's true, right? So
does Julius? I hear Julius's wife in the background. Does he have an armchair from which he spouts these things?
Sean wants to know if I have an armchair where I spouse all my opinions.
No, you can espouse your opinions from wherever you are.
Okay.
Very easily.
Sounds about right. Sounds about right. Yeah.
Oh
Okay.
gosh.
Yeah. Yeah. This was a trailblazer.
Happy Jam Jam. No, Julius, no overstay. We must chain these actors to the roles, even reel out their dead bodies to puppet their roles. And Ryan, haha, that was my stepdad too. I think that was all our stepdad, Ryan. It was that generation. It was
If
that old generation, you know?
If I'd had a stepdad, I'm sure he would have been like that. Yeah.
Oh man. So yeah, this was definitely this hit really, really like at home for me. Because not only was it funny for me, I also liked the fact that you had the son-in-law played by Rob Reiner, who was the antithesis. He was the different perspective, the liberal perspective that always clashed with Archie Bunker's. I don't want to say conservative, but you know, the hard
traditional.
Yeah. Where the one who's like hard work, shut up, don't complain, you know, man up, and you got and just do what you got to do.
Right.
And of course, Rob Reiner's character was like, no, because what about this? What about this? And you know, and so on and so forth. So it was great. It made for great comedy, first of its kind. I think this is definitely for me what modern America. It was in other words, TV caught up with modern America when this show came out in the 70s.
And there's certainly a prototype here. Like, I can't speak to a lot of what this show. I don't have a lot of opinions about this show in particular, but I see a prototype there for characters like, and relationships between characters like Alex in Family Ties, right? Who's this conservative Reagan Republican, and his parents are like these hippie liberals, you know, kind of from the 60s, and he's from the 80s. It reminds me of the sort of the Leslie Knope, Ron Swanson relationship where their politics are just so different, you know? And then Jack Donaghy, Liz Lemon is another great example of that. So yeah, I think that show was a trailblazer in that way.
Yeah. So you don't have any other shows at all? Because I have a few.
You know, I always loved
different one.
I always loved the Mary Tyler Moore Show, which came out after the Dick Van Dyke Show. I think that went into the 70s. And as I mentioned before, I really love her as a performer. Ed Asner was really great in that show. And then I used to watch the Rhoda, which was like a spinoff of the Mary Tyler Moore Show. Oh, and I used to watch Laverne and Shirley.
Oh, Laverne and Shirley. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
With Lenny and Squiggy. I love Lenny and Squiggy so much.
Yeah, that was actually a good one. That was a gem for me too. What's her name? Penny Marshall was definitely channeling a little bit of Lucille Ball, but she had her own chutzpah, I guess, that she presented in that show, and I loved it. Yeah, it was one of my favorites too, growing up as well. Very hilarious. This show, although is revered even to this day, I hated it because it was like, okay, it's time for me to go to sleep now. And the show that I'm talking about is MASH. Yeah, once I heard that theme song and I saw the helicopter that shot the aerial shot, helicopter, I was like, okay, it's time to go to bed. It's too late. Turn off the TV.
Yeah.
Time to go to bed.
Did you ever see the Futurama where they made fun of MASH? And there was like there was like a robot that was like Hawkeye, and he had like Alan Alda's voice, and he was like, he had two settings. One was glib and one was maudlin. So like he'd be like joking around and going, ha, 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 and then they'd flip it to maudlin, and he'd be like, life is nothing but death. Like it's just like turns on a dime.
No.
Maybe I could find that clip real quick. It's pretty great.
Yeah, try to find it. Another show that I want to that I really like from the 70s that I thought I still think to this day is very underrated. I don't think a lot of people talk about it too much, even though it's really, really good. and mainly because once again, it was one of those things where I connected to it because it was closer to home. Give me a second here. Let me just find it.
Oh, here it is. I found it.
And let me show mine first. There. Sanford and Son.
Oh, I used to love that show.
Yeah, Sanford and Son. Great show. Underrated, I think. I still believe it's underrated. And
What did he call him?
Not many people talk about it. But this show was fantastic. I love the show. I love the premise. I love the setting. And like I said, it felt close to home. This show felt close to home for me growing up.
I feel like Julius. I feel like this could be a two-parter because I mean we're only in the 70s, you know.
Yeah, I think you're right. We're already 8 o'clock. We're already we're close to an hour. It's been 45 minutes.
Yeah. All right.
If it does end up going a little too long, we'll split it.
Okay.
We'll keep talking because there's a lot, especially the 80s, because the 80s was the boom period for us, you know, because that was when we were born and we were a little old enough to start watching TV, and then there's a bunch of stuff on TV at that time anyway. So
yeah.
Don't say Chico and the Man. Now, ID Crisis. I never seen that show. I've heard of it, Freddie Prinze Sr. But I just never. I guess I never got into it, even though from what I read and seen, Freddie Prinze was a very funny man. But I have yet to see any of the his I used the LS theme from it. Oh, you do? That's right, Ryan. You do. Ryan, Sean, for if you don't know, Ryan Wynn has his own YouTube channel. It's a great channel. It's he interviews other creators, comic book creators, and he inks and draws during his live streams while he's talking to the other creators. And he does have the Laverne and Shirley theme for his intro his video.
We're gonna make it after all. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty great. All right, so you ready to share yours?
I got this.
Let's see. Okay, here we go.
I don't remember like everything about this clip, but this is the joke I was talking about.
Some for the enemy to kill.
Leave Dr. Zoidberg alone. He has twice the training you do.
Yeah, he's a doctor and a butcher.
This is how it starts. First with the jokes, then comes the heavy stuff.
When will the killing end?
I'm afraid he's gone.
That's pretty good.
Like, yeah, that's Hawkeye. So.
Okay, well, you still want to go 70s, or now you want to move on to the 80s since you don't have that many 70s shows that you personally liked?
I'm sure. Yeah, I think we're good to move on to the 80s. Yeah, because I just want to make one remark though about Sanford and Son. One of the great, and I know Julius is not. I don't think Julius has watched 30 Rock, right? Right, Julius? You haven't watched that show.
I have not seen it now.
And for me, it's just like my favorite show ever. And there's this great joke in 30 Rock where Jack, Alec Baldwin's character, and Tracy Morgan's character, Tracy Jordan, are having a feud. And Tracy, to get back at Jack, Jack goes to the symphony, right? And the conductor of the symphony goes, I have good news. Someone has endowed our symphony with a $10 million gift. And Jack's like, oh, that's nice. And then he says, so in tribute to our anonymous donor, instead of our regular programming tonight of Beethoven and Bach and whatever, here is a 4-hour rendition of the theme song from Sanford and Son. And then he conducts the orchestra and it goes dun dun da 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 for 4 hours.
Oh gosh.
It's one of the best moments in 30 Rock. It's amazing. But 80s. So first one that comes to my mind is Family Ties. Right, Alex P. Michael J. Fox.
You know, oddly enough, that was not one of my favorites. Oddly enough,
okay.
It was. I don't know what it was. It's not that I didn't like the show. I don't know why I would try to watch it and I just couldn't watch it. And I think it's because I was so into Back to the Future at the time. I just couldn't bring myself to watch Marty act normal. So that's why I couldn't do it, because I was so enamored with Marty McFly, the character, that when I saw Michael J. Fox on a TV role acting normal, it was like I couldn't bring myself to enjoy it. I think that's what it was. But maybe if I watch it now as an adult, I might appreciate it more.
You know, speaking of physical performers, Michael J. Fox is a brilliant physical comedian and performer, and that's the thing. He's great in Family Ties. I think he's hilarious. It's a really great part, really great, well-written part for him. But you're right, he doesn't have those opportunities in Family Ties to be as physical, or really to be physical like he is in Back to the Future. You know, the stuff he does in Back to the Future where he's like sliding across the hood, or he's like doing the guitar riffs on his back legs, you know, like I think that's something that doesn't get talked about a lot, about why Back to the Future is such a classic film and why it's so beloved is Michael J. Fox's just like kinetic physical performance. It's really incredible. And I think that's why when the Spider-Man movie came out and people were saying, oh, Tom Holland, if you recast Ryan. Agreed. If you recast the Back to the Future movies today, people, you know, I remember when the Spider-Man movie came out, people saying, oh, Tom Holland would have made a great Marty McFly, you know? And I think the reason for that is because he's a very good actor, but he's funny, he's likable, and he's very physical, just like Michael J. Fox was. Yeah.
I hope they never. Let's just throw poison at that idea. Okay, let's throw poison at that idea. No, do not remake. That doesn't mean we want Back to the Future remade and with Tom Holland. Please don't do that. Just leave it alone.
I know
Hollywood. Leave it alone. Bad Hollywood. Bad.
I probably mentioned this on the BTTF episode we did, but I feel compelled to say it again. So Robert Zemeckis was asked once if he would ever allow Back to the Future to be rebooted or something like that, and his exact words were, over my dead body, and over Bob Gale's, basically over him and got Bob Gale's dead bodies, right?
So I think they're gonna wait until they die. I think that's what's gonna happen.
That may be true, but he also said, you don't remake ID Crisis. We're getting there, man. We're getting there. Zemeckis said, you don't remake Citizen Kane. And as baller of a thing as that is to say, he's absolutely right. The Back to the Future is the Citizen Kane of popcorn movies, but we're doing a sitcom show, so I'll stop.
Yeah, right. No, but there's just to put it out there in the ether, right? Just put it out there. Do not remake Back to the Future. It's fine the way it is. You could watch it 20 years from now, and it's still going to be great.
And George Lucas, don't do a special edition of it.
Yeah. Right. I've always wanted, more flying cars flying in the background.
Yeah.
Martin entered, Hill Valley.
When I first made Back to the Future, I couldn't put as many flying cars as I wanted. And that's why the movie was not as good as it should have been.
All right. So let's segue to the 80s. 80s sitcom. Now, I put a couple of comments on the screen. And, of course, the big one. It's the elephant in the room. We have to put it out there because I was a fan of it. I don't know if you were a fan of it.
Oh, I loved it. My family loved it.
I was a huge Bill Cosby fan. Like, I loved the show. It was a great show. It was funny. It was very, not only funny, but sometimes it dealt with some certain like heavy subjects, and that's what I liked about it. That sometimes it went there, not all the time, but for the most part, it was funny, hilarious.
Great. I mean, it was all based on Bill Cosby's comedy about his kids and about his family, and it all came through, his relationship with Theo or Rudy or Vanessa or like, and all those kids too are cast so well.
So let's end it there because I don't want to give this man too much praise.
Okay. All right.
So we'll just put it out there that, hey, the show was good.
We enjoyed
it. We recognize it, but
And we recognize the hundreds, we recognize the hundreds of people who worked on that show that were not
Yes.
named Bill Cosby, because
Right. The writers, the directors, the actors involved, who also played a big role in making sure the show was successful. Not only, Bill Cosby, even though he was obviously, what's it say? Hey, Bill Cosby. That's what I call it in writing when the writer hides things inside his writings for the audience to drink. I don't know what you mean by that, Happy Jam Jam. The other men have 4 of all Cosby vinyls. The unpleasantness has turned us into separating art from the artist ninjas. Yeah, it's a shame. Obviously, everyone knows what happened. There's no need to repeat it here, but it's just a shame that it happened, that he did what he did, because his show was good. His show was great. It's just a shame he couldn't live by it in real life.
Yeah,
But
I feel like we could do a whole show on Bill Cosby's moral failings, but yeah, we should probably.
Yeah. Oh, look at
leave
this.
well
It
enough
says here, and Ryan went, yeah, you see the twinkle in Sean's eyes when they mention remake.
No.
Something tells me, Sean, that perhaps if the Bobs were to pass away and they came knocking on your door and said, hey, Sean, would you be interested in being a cinematographer for the remake of Back to the Future?
Okay, yeah, I would say yes. Yeah.
Of course you would.
I mean, how could you not? I mean,
oh, how quickly the tables turn when it's your chance to shine.
Yeah.
Okay. There you have it, folks. I helped you get the cat out of the bag. Sean will do the remake if he was.
Yeah. If there's enough,
if he was offered the chance to be the cinematographer for the Back to the Future remake.
That's right. Yeah, if it was, in other words, for the right amount of money and fame, yeah, I would do it. No, just kidding.
All right, let's move on to the 80s then. Cosby's out of the way. Let's talk about what else. Go ahead, Sean. Let's do, instead of 2, let's do 3, maybe 4, because there's a lot. There's a lot here to unpack. So
well, we got to talk about, if we're talking about the 80s, you got to talk about TGIF, right? Thank goodness it's Friday. And of course, this kind of bleeds into the early 90s too, but that era of sitcoms where we're watching shows like Full House, Perfect Strangers, that was kind of in the early days of TGIF. I loved all those shows. I loved Perfect Strangers, and then I loved Step by Step for some reason when that show came out. I thought that
Step by Step.
When I was a kid, I love that show. And then Family Matters, right, with Urkel.
Family Matters. You can't go wrong with Family Matters. Did I do that?
Yeah.
You can't go wrong with that. Cheers, surprisingly, was one of my favorites as well.
I'm so glad you mentioned Cheers. I came to like Cheers. Wasn't one I watched as a young person, but I came to like it as an older person when I went back and watched the show. And it is a really brilliantly written, funny show about a bunch of losers who go to a bar every day for like 10 years straight. And it's great. It's wonderful. And Cheers introduced the world to Kelsey Grammer, and Kelsey Grammer is one of them.
And Kirstie Alley too. Don't forget
about Kirstie Alley, of course. I mean, Ted Danson's one of my favorite actors. Kelsey Grammer's one of my favorite actors. Woody Harrelson's one of my favorite actors. Like, yeah, just a great show. Wild About 88, Family Ties. You just missed it, man. We already discussed it.
We discussed it.
We're moving on to Cheers. But yeah, great, wonderful show. Brown.
Yeah, it is. It was. I like that. It was. Yeah, you're right. Blue collar, very blue collar. Once again, I came from that world, so I was able to connect with the show because it felt like, I feel like I could get along with these people. Like if I was old enough and hang out at this bar where all sorts of drama and craziness occurred. And who's the other actress other than Kirstie Alley? She was really good. She was in the first season. I keep forgetting her name. Her face is recognizable.
Diane Chambers.
Diane Chambers. She's another one that was really good.
Yeah, the character's name was Diane Chambers.
Yeah, she doesn't get enough love. Here we go. There she is.
Shelley Long. Shelley Long.
Shelley Long. Yeah.
Oh no, she was a great foil to Ted Danson's Sam character. And I want to put a shout out for Sam Malone. Sam Malone, Sean Malone. A sitcom character who's, made my name famous. Coach, I love this guy that plays Eddie Pantuso, Coach. Actually, the older gentleman there with the tie.
Oh, this guy. Okay.
Yeah, he was a great, really funny part of the show. He actually passed away several years into the run, and then he was replaced by Woody Harrelson.
Oh, I see. Okay, I didn't know that.
But yeah, again, the sitcom, we talked about what a sitcom is, and it's like, oh, what if we took an ex-ball player who's also an alcoholic, but he hasn't had a drink in 12 years, and he owns a bar? Like, what can we make out of that, right?
Yeah, and it worked. It's a formula that still works to this day. I mean, that's what situation. If you look at the root word of sitcom, you find out it's situational comedy. So that's what good comedy is. It's situational. It's something that you put two opposites in the same room, and that can always lead to comedy. Always. And it's a formula that's tried and true. It never fails. It's just a matter of who's involved that either makes it or breaks it. So sometimes you do get it. Like, for instance, Cheers is a prime example of getting the right actors to play the right parts, and everything comes together beautifully because they could perform what the writers sit down and give to the actors to portray the character. So Cheers was definitely a show that definitely got everything was right for that to happen, and it was huge. It was a huge show too. I remember as a kid, that's all I heard about was Cheers. Like, it was like one of those shows that everyone just talked about and everyone was sad to see it go when it did go. But it was just time, just like everything else. That's why I'm a proponent of not stretching things out too thin. I'm a person who likes to end things when they're done. That's why I respect Ricky Gervais, because he could have definitely cashed in on The Office for as long as he wanted, but he decided to end it because he didn't want to be that guy for 10 years. And kudos for him for doing that, for sticking to his guns and going, you know what, I'm going to do only 2-3 seasons of this and I'm done. I'm out and I'm going to do something else. And
he got to have his cake and eat it too, because then he got to be the creator of the American Office, and then for like 9 years.
He could just sit back and be like, I'm good. I could do whatever I want now. And of course, Extras was great. I loved Extras. And I was happy that it only lasted, I think, 2 seasons. I can't remember, 2 or 3 seasons. I don't remember which of the two, but and then he just keeps on making more and more stuff, and I like that. I'm a big fan of that. Another show that I also like. Well, you mentioned what was the first show you mentioned, Sean, that you liked from the 80s?
Oh,
I brought Cheers. I brought Cheers in, but
I think this is more early 90s, but I was just talking about TGIF, watching that as a kid and watching Full House and Step by Step and Family Matters and shows like that. But Cheers is like, let's face it, Cheers.
Go ahead, come here, say it. My wife wants to get some of her list too. Go ahead, talk.
I like Small Wonder.
Oh, Small Wonder. Sure.
I like Small Wonder. That was like one of my favorites.
She's a small
I wanted
wonder.
to be Vicky. No. So bad. No.
I liked that show too.
That was my favorite show too, believe it or not.
When I was a little kid. Yeah. I think I had a crush on Small Wonder. I'm not, if I'm remembering.
Who didn't, Sean? Who didn't have a crush on Small Wonder?
I know she's a robot, but
spoiler alert. Small Wonder. Yeah, it was great. I love the sitcom. I love the theme song of this show. That was a great show. A great theme song. But yeah, Step by Step, Family Matters. So TGIF was your sub hub of like shows you had to watch every Friday.
Yeah, and it was something my family watched together. I remember watching it with my brother and sister, especially. and my parents too would watch it with us. It was family friendly, you know.
Well, of course, yeah. TGI. What can you go wrong with that? Any other shows in the 90s
Well,
that you could think of? Outside of TGIF that you may.
I think we should, because Cheers is going to segue me into Frasier, right?
Yeah, but the Frasier was 90s, wasn't it?
That was 90s. Yeah.
Yeah. We're
And
not
then
there yet. We're not there yet.
we're not quite there, but I feel like it deserves to be mentioned with the Cheers situation. But no, I think Cheers was a great mention. But yeah, we can move on. And I am thinking a part 2, Julius. I think we should split this.
Should we end in the 90s or should we end in the 80s? Well, what's your call here? Because we're already over in the hour mark. I don't know if you want to keep going. We don't have to keep going if you don't want to. We could split this, but we'll have James with us, and we will have to push back the underrated and overrated directors volume 2 to a later show.
Yeah.
But let's don't forget that you're going to be shooting the movie soon, so you'll be gone for a few weeks.
That's right. So I think next week,
A crossover that we all wish we could get. Happy Jam Jam. That'd be great. That'd be awesome. Terminator versus Small Wonder. Well, it's up to you, bud. We could keep going, push to the 90s, and then we could end it after the 90s, and then we'll maybe later on after you come back from your shoot, and then we get situated again, we'll do it again. But 90s, or maybe not entire 90s, be mid 90s, because 90s was like the explosion of shows, like just a massive amount of shows in the 90s. It was just like a tremendous amount of shows that came out in the 90s that were really good. 80s was still, it was growing, but 90s was just like an explosion.
Okay, yeah, let's I think we should pause it here, and then I think we should do this part 2 when I'm back from my trip.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, to continue on the 80s. Damn, Sean. Well, Sean's not going away. He's shooting a movie. He's shooting a full-length feature, ladies and gentlemen.
Next month. Which is like a few days away.
He's going to be the cinematographer of an independent film, and he's going to go for it, man. This is what it's all about. This is what cinema is all about. He's going to go for it, pursue his dreams, and pretty soon we'll have more news about this independent film, and we'll give you guys updates as we get them, and we'll let you guys know when there's if it will be showing it in a film festival near you. Hopefully, God willing, if this COVID situation does die down, hopefully it does, and if it does, then we'll definitely have a chance to watch his film in a theater, which will be awesome. That's where it needs to be shown. It needs to be shown inside a theater and presented the way it's supposed to be presented. So we'll definitely keep you guys posted on that. And so when more news comes in, we'll give you more information and you guys can check it out. But right now it's still under wraps. Right now it's hush hush. It's best to always not talk too much about your project. It's always best to just kind of give little tidbits here and there. And then once it's ready and complete, then you could, announce it and let everyone know.
Yeah.
Ryan says, break a lens. That's good, Ryan. I like that. Break a lens. And Happy Jam Jams is wishing you well on your work. And
thank you, Ryan. Thank you. Happy Jam Jam.
Sean is a very not only is he a talented and skilled cinematographer, he has a encyclopedic knowledge of how to light a scene. So I have no doubt that that it's going to be great. I think you're going to light a great movie.
Thanks, buddy. Thank you.
So continue on with our 80s.
Okay.
This show I used to hate as a kid. I used to hate it. It annoyed the crap out of me because I never understood why anyone would like this show. But now that I'm a little older and I started watching it with my wife, because my wife is a huge fan of the show, I found it to be extremely funny, surprisingly funny, by the way. And the show that I'm talking about is Golden Girls.
Ha.
I never would have thought I would see the day where I would say that I'm a fan of Golden Girls, because like I was telling you, as a kid, I used to hate this damn show because I didn't understand it. Why do people want to watch a show about 4 single old ladies? What is the point of this show? Why? Why would anyone want to watch this? What's the point? But now that I'm older, I get it. I understand now why. Why it's so good. It's so well written. It's funny. All the actresses on the show are fantastic. The writing is great, and now I understood why it was. Why the show was what it was. Betty. 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 What's her name? Betty White.
Betty White. Yeah.
The actress in the middle, I don't know I don't know her name, but I'm not all about that old. Right?
Wait, what did Ryan say?
Yeah, he said now Julia's all about that old.
So Beatrice Arthur is the woman you're referring to.
Okay, she was freaking fantastic.
Yeah.
She's a great actress, and I was surprised I never heard of her, but apparently she was a famous TV actress, theater act. She was more famous for her theater work, which is not surprising because typically people who succeed more in TV are typically come from the theater background because they're in front of an audience. They know how to work with the audience. It's easy for them to adapt to television. So this show was seriously surprising me. Like how I was surprised how good it was when I started watching it with my wife.
Do you know how old Betty White is?
No, how old is she?
She's 99 years old.
99 years old.
She's 99 years old. I just looked it up. Yeah.
And so here she looks like she's almost 70. To be honest with you.
Well, she probably was.
So,
I mean, that was 40 years ago.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
She's been old a long time.
You're right.
Yeah,
Gosh,
I don't
man,
remember much about this show. I wasn't. It wasn't one of my. I didn't watch it a lot, but
okay, yeah, no, same here. I just like I said, I started recently watching it with my wife. But now the reason why I bring it up because now I understand why it was such a big deal in the 80s,
right?
And why it was still being shown the reruns when I was a kid because it really was great. It really was a great show. So this is one show I think it's definitely up there as one of the greats. Up there with maybe not as high as Lucy, Honeymooners, All in the Family, but it's there. It's strong. So yeah, that show was another show that I wanted to share with you guys. It's one of the great 80s sitcoms that I now appreciate. Another show too that kind of came later in the 80s, late 80s, I want to say, but it really hit its stride in the 90s. But I'm still going to mention it because it started in the 80s, late 80s. And well, there's 2 more before we call it quits because I got to mention the second to last one.
Okay.
Because it's important. It's a staple in my childhood, and I think it's a staple for all the people's childhoods who's on the stream, who's in the comment section. But yeah, hold on. Let me bring it up here. The first one, you may not like it, Sean, because maybe it wasn't your part. I guess it wasn't your cup of tea. But I'm sure you know what show I'm talking about. And the show I'm talking about is Married with Children.
Oh.
So Married with Children, like I said, the show found its stride in the 90s. It was huge in the 90s.
Yeah.
But I wanted to bring it up today because it started in the 80s and we're still in the 80s. So in part 2 of the sitcom series, we'll talk more about this show. But I just wanted to mention it as like a what do you call those? It's a phrase for it. Honorable mention.
Okay.
The 80s.
Okay. All right.
Married with Children. Because like I said, it started. I think it was 88 or 89 when it first started airing. But like I said, 90s was when it blew up. It was like a huge phenomenal success.
I used to work at Starbucks, and this woman, Katie
Seagal.
Yeah, is it Katie Seagal? Is that her name?
Not Seagal, but Seagal I forget her.
She came into my line one time at Starbucks, And I recognize her because I recognize her voice. She has a very distinct voice, and I think she voices Leela on Futurama, right?
Yeah, she does. She does.
And so I recognized her voice immediately, and then I looked at her, and she had like a kind of like a wrap on her head and like big sunglasses. Like she clearly like did not want people recognizing her or talking to her.
Right, yeah.
And so she ordered her coffee, and I said, okay. And Starbucks, we're trained like, you always ask the person's name, right? So I was like, okay, what's your name? And she said, Kate. And I said, okay, Kate, well, we'll have that for you in a minute. I didn't bug her. I didn't like, fanboy her or anything.
Right.
And actually, I have to tell this. It's rare I get the opportunity to tell this story. Can I tell another Starbucks story?
Oh, go ahead, please. By all
So
means.
I worked at the Brentwood Starbucks, which is like near Beverly Hills, and like Harrison Ford came into our Starbucks. Steven Spielberg came in. Of course, they didn't come in the days I was working, right?
Of course, yeah.
But one time I was working, and this older man walks in. Julius, you're gonna love this story, okay?
Okay.
I'm like, Julius, I need your full attention, okay?
Okay. All right.
This older man walks in, and he looks like Woody Allen.
Uh-oh.
And I think to myself, is this Woody Allen? But here we are in like Southern California, and I'm thinking, well, Woody Allen lives in New York. I'm sure he comes to LA sometimes, right? And I think to myself, this little old man looks like Woody Allen. Oh my goodness, is this Woody Allen? And then I thought, I'll know as soon as he opens his mouth whether he's
right.
Man walks up to me because I'm working the register.
All right.
And he says, I have a doppio espresso for here. And I was like, and again at Starbucks, so clearly it's Woody Allen. Again at Starbucks, we're trained to always ask the name of the person.
Right.
And I said, okay, what's your name, sir? And he goes, Ed.
Ed.
Guess Ed. I was like,
Ed,
okay.
huh?
Okay, Ed.
Woody Allen, the other Cosby. Yes,
Yeah.
unfortunately, yes.
Man,
yes.
we're just, we should just, the show should just be about people, the canceled people. That's true, because we end up talking about
so, because it's always conflicting, right? It's always conflicting when you have people that I don't want to say revere or worship, but more like, I guess,
admire.
respect. It's respect as an artist. I would say respect, because admiring it's more of a, I don't know, it's more of a worshiping thing. I'm not into that thing. I'm not into being starstruck anymore like I was 10 years ago. Now I'm more like, you're a human being, I'm a human being. We're both equal. Yeah, you do movies, you make this, whatever, but that doesn't mean anything to me anymore.
Yeah.
But I can still respect your work, your body of work. So it's always very conflicting how, people like Woody Allen, Kevin Spacey, Bill Cosby, and the list goes on and on. And it's just like, oh man, like you did such great work. You have such great body of work. Now I can't. I still want to appreciate it because it's great work, but now I can't. I just can't. It's like someone pooping in the pool.
Right.
Like or like putting the turd in the punch bowl. You ruined the punch bowl, buddy. Like it was great punch, and you ruined it by putting a turd in there. You bastards. So it's just tough. Woody Allen has made great films, fantastic films throughout his career. I watched Blue Jasmine a few months ago with Kate Blanchett. I don't know if you've ever seen that one, Sean, or not.
No. I remember. No, I don't think I've seen that.
Oh man, well, Kate Blanchett was freaking phenomenal in that film. Like
Okay.
Like if you had any doubts about her acting ability, you no longer had any doubts after watching Blue Jasmine, because she owned that role, and I was really impressed by it. And I was like, this freaking asshole, this freaking talented a-hole. I can't believe you, man. Like, I can't believe you. I can't respect this body of work, but whatever. It's just one of those things that I think that I'm not the only one who feels that way. There's a lot of people out there who also feel conflicted.
I mean, I was never a Woody Allen, like, I never obsessed over him or anything, or about his movies, but there was, thank you, Happy Jam Jam. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I have more stories from that Starbucks, which I'll bring to you at another time.
Yeah, please share those. Those would be great.
I have great.
I didn't have any doubts while about 88. I'm just saying it's like a saying, I guess you could say. You know, it's just a phrase. You know, that if you had doubts about Kate Blanchett's acting ability, there was no. After watching Blue Jasmine, then you wouldn't have any more doubts. I never had doubts about Kate Blanchett's acting ability. She's fantastic. I mean, she played Katharine Hepburn in Aviator. I mean, that was like I honestly thought, and I'll let you get to your story, Sean, but to your point. But I honestly thought Kate Blanchett was not going to pull off Katharine Hepburn. I seriously thought she was not going to do it. I was like, she ain't going to pull it off. No way. She's going to do the caricature that most comedians do. But she, again, I was like, wow, she freaking she's great. Yeah, after that, I was like, this Kate Blanchett is the shit. Like she's up there for sure. But go ahead, Sean. You're going to finish your thought.
Oh, I was just going to say, but during like when I first really started getting into movies, of course, like I saw some of his contemporary movies when I was like the movies that were coming out at that time,
right,
like Small Time Crooks. And I loved Small Time Crooks. It's probably my favorite Woody Allen movie just because it's super funny. And then he came out with one with the gal from Saved by the Bell, and I don't remember the name of the movie. Something about emerald sapphires or green something. The Curse of the Jade Scorpion. The Curse of the Jade Scorpion.
Oh yeah, I remember that movie.
Yeah. Had some really, actually one of my favorite Woody Allen jokes moments is in that movie where he's like, he goes into someone's office and he's like looking through all their stuff, and they come in and they go, "What are you doing? Why are you going through my stuff?" And he goes, "I'm rummaging. I rummage. I'm a rummager. I rummage." like it's just like part of his nature. He rummages.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, and then I went back and I watched the one with Diane Keaton. What's the famous one? Annie Hall. I watched that movie. I watched Manhattan, and oh yeah, that could be our outshot. Wild by 88. I can tell the Luther story. But anyway, I digress. He's a very good artist, but yeah, it's sad that it's sad that artists aren't often good people. So
yeah, right, exactly.
And people aren't often good people.
No, you're right. They're not. It's just a matter of have some self-control
and some professionalism.
In terms of like what Woody Allen did, that's a different level right there. But I'll say for the most part, if you are what you are, then just I guess have some decency. I mean, what's so hard about having some decency, and having some self-respect, and not only self-respect but respect for others, who are working with you or who are going to be in a working relationship with you. So for me, it's like, it always boggles my mind as to why can't you practice that? Like, what's the point? Like, did you not think you're not going to get caught at one point? Like, what was the deal here? Who knows with these things, but
people feel like they're above it,
Yeah. And exactly. And that's the thing. Never meet your heroes. Don't make them into heroes in the first place. Just remind yourself they're people, they're human beings. And we're all corruptible. We all can be corruptible. It's just a matter of how we decide to approach it. So to end the show, and we'll definitely continue this on in another episode because there's a lot to unpack in the 90s, because the 90s was chock full of favorite sitcoms. Some good, some not so good, in my opinion.
Yeah, because once we get in the 90s, it's like we're in our era, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We're gonna have a lot to say about it.
Yeah, a lot to talk about. So the last one I want to share with you guys that I think is great. It's not underrated, and neither is it overrated. It's actually just right. And the show I'm talking about is a show that was a staple of my childhood and my preteen years and my teen years, and that is Saved by the Bell.
Ah, Curse of the Jade
Saved by the Bell.
Scorpion. Yeah.
Now,
Elizabeth Berkley.
yeah, Elizabeth Berkley. So I know this is another show like Married with Children where it blew up in the 90s. It was more popular in the 90s than it was when it first came on in the 80s. But this show for me was obviously, there's obvious reasons why I love this show so much, because it dealt with teenage life. And I was a teenager at the time, so I was able to totally identify with this show. You know, high school life, junior high school life, friends, friendship, betrayals, that kind of thing. And yeah, this show definitely was my favorite of all time growing up. Zach was a POS. Not looking back on the show, Zach, what's his last name? Morris, Zach Morris. I don't know if you guys ever seen the shorts from Funny or Die called Zach Morris's Trash. If you guys have not seen that, tonight, if you got nothing to do, look it up. You will find them everywhere. He's either on Amazon Prime if you have Prime. They might be on YouTube if you search for him. I'm not sure. But look up Zach Morris's Trash.
Real quick, it looks like Lisa Turtle is flipping the camera off. I know that's not what she's doing. I think she's snapping.
She's snapping the fingers, yeah.
But it looks like she's like giving everyone the finger. Yeah, I loved this show. It was another one I watched with my brother and sister and by myself on Saturday mornings. And that was the other thing about this show is that it was a sitcom for kids that came on Saturday mornings, like when cartoons usually came on, or right after cartoons came on. So it was like our whole generation, even though it wasn't like a prime time hit show, right? Our whole generation grew up watching this show. I had crushes on every single one of these girls. Like,
who hadn't, right?
I think Elizabeth Berkley's character, what was her character's name? Jesse Spano, right?
Jesse Spano, yep.
Yeah, Jesse Spano was my favorite because I loved how like she was smart.
Yeah.
And she was kind of a nerd and she was smart. Brad and I actually met, may he rest in peace, God rest his soul. We met Dustin Diamond one time at Disneyland.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was a fun story. And maybe that's the story I should end on. But yeah, Julius, what did you love about this show?
Everything. It was funny. Belding, was
Principal Belding.
Principal Belding was a great I guess I wouldn't say protagonist to Zach's antagonist, because Zach was, back then, of course, I would think Zach was the coolest character in the show because he got all the girls, he was popular, he was very cool. But now that I'm older and again watching the Zach Morris's Trash shorts from Funny or Die, you realize, he really was a terrible person. He really was a terrible person. Like, oh my God.
He's sociopath.
A sociopath for sure. AC Slater was cool. I mean, I love the fact that they kept the show going and you got to see these characters grow. We got to see them from their freshman year up until their senior year in high school. And I love that because it brought like a sense of almost like knowing these characters yourself personally. And that you could, if you see them down the street, you could, talk to them. But of course it's just fantasy. It's just make believe.
Yeah.
But
yeah, you felt like they were your friends in school.
Yeah, exactly. And that they're, if you, like I said, if you saw them down the street, be like, hey, Kelly, how you doing? How you been?
The early version of this show also had Haley Mills in it. She played their teacher.
Yes. Yeah, and she was great. I'm surprised that they got rid of her in the new, the latest when they went to high school.
Yeah, they changed because the show was originally named like Good Morning Miss Swan or something like that.
Okay.
And it was really about her class, and they were like middle schoolers.
Right. Yeah, but then it blew up to I guess the Zach Morris show, right? Saved by the Bell. But you know what? It's fine. It's fine. It worked out. It worked out because, like I said, it was a staple in our youth.
You know how you asked me what I liked about F Troop?
Right.
And it was like Mr. Belding, how he was the principal of the school, but he wasn't really in charge. Like Zach Morris was really in charge. you know, kind of like Ferris Bueller, you know.
Yeah.
Like that's how F Troop was. Like the captain of the fort was like in charge, but he really wasn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway, can I tell my Dustin Diamond story as my?
Oh, well, yeah. Before you do, I just want to remind everyone that we will be moving from Friday because, you know, COVID's kind of going down. People are starting to feel more comfortable going out on Friday nights. So I'm assuming people are not going to be home Friday nights anymore. So we're going to move the day, um, Tuesday or Thursday. I don't know which of the 2 days. We'll get back to you on that. I'll make sure to tweet it out, and I'll make sure to and you know, subscribe if you have not subscribed. Hit the notification bell so that way when we do change days, you know exactly which day we're on. That's a beautiful thing about subscribing to Talking Cinema. We'll have more content like this. This is a lot of fun. I didn't think we were going to dive deep into our love of sitcoms and how much sitcoms really have played a role in our lives, in our American lives. The fact that we know so much about sitcoms. I'm surprised that we know a lot about sitcoms as much as cinema. So we might do this again. We might explore certain series, but well, you know, just throwing things out there. But for the future, just remember, guys, to subscribe, hit the like button, leave a comment, and hit the notification bell so that way you know when we move to our new days, you'll know which days we're gonna move to. So, with that said, I would lastly like to say about the show, what I loved about it was, it almost had like it was a slice of real life.
Okay.
You had the nerd Screech always chasing Lisa, and Lisa just denying him left and right. And Screech was definitely a guy I could relate to.
Related to him
high
too.
school, you know, because there's definitely a few girls in my lifetime that I liked and they didn't like me back, and I would pursue them. But unlike Screech, I would stop when they said no. So Screech was kind of a creeper towards Lisa because, you know, Lisa would tell him no and he still kept going for her. He still went after her no matter what. So also, I did like
he was persistent.
He was persistent, but still, it was kind of like, dude, she's not interested. Move on. And eventually, he did. He found a girlfriend in Tori Spelling. If you remember, Tori Spelling was a guest star of that show. I think I forget what season it was, but she played his girlfriend. I also liked that the AC Slater and Zach will always sometimes bump heads. And,
yeah.
You know, the breakup between Kelly and Zach, and also how they grew apart and that kind of. It was just great all around. It just really gave you like a slice of what real life can be, of what can become when you are growing up and you starting to become an adult. And that is, you're gonna go through heartbreak, pain, betrayal, and also some crazy wild antics that some troublemaking kid is gonna get you involved in. So there was that element too that I liked. But go ahead, tell us your Dustin Diamond story that you met at the Disneyland.
So we're kids. Brad's probably 13 or 14. No, he's probably 16. My sister's probably 13. I'm probably 10, right?
Oh wow! So okay, all right.
And we're at my parents. We used to come out here to Disney to California to vacation because I grew up in Arizona. And my parents, we were at the Disneyland Hotel. We always came to the Disneyland Hotel the first day of our vacation because it was free. You didn't have to pay to get into the Disneyland Hotel. We could just walk around, you know?
Right.
So my parents, though, it was like their anniversary or something, and they were going to go have a nice dinner for their anniversary. And they told us kids, like, here, you know, here's some money. Go get some dinner at, there used to be this place called the Monorail Cafe. And it was,
oh yeah,
it was like it was a diner. It was just a diner, and it was like up on top where the monorail was. And we loved that place. Like, I was so sad when they took that place out, one of our Disney places. But so we go in there, you know, we're these 3 siblings, no parents, and we order our food and we go sit down, and then this family comes in, and they're coming in the door, and this guy looks exactly like Screech from Saved by the Bell. And, you know, the 3 of us kids are like, is that Screech? No, it can't be Screech. You know? So then my brother, who's not, he's typically more shy than this, my brother. So this is a little out of character for him. my brother yells out across the restaurant, "Screech!"
Oh God.
Oh, I'm too far away. So then, and then Dustin Diamond, poor Dustin Diamond, just looks up and he goes, and he just keeps, walking to get his food. But he acknowledged us. He was like, "Oh yeah, hey, I'm Screech," and then he just kept walking. I was like, Dustin Diamond, man, Screech.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty bold of your brother.
Screech.
I'm sure he loved that.
He looked like he didn't love it, but
No,
yeah.
he from what I've read and from what I've seen and the interviews he's given over the years, he hated it. He hated the fact that he would walk down the street and people would call him Screech.
Well, he had some, he had some troubles in life, and I'd like to think I'd like to think my brother was at least partially responsible for some of his problems.
Maybe it triggered something where he's like, "Oh, I can't believe him."
That was the last straw for Dustin Diamond. Yeah. No, let's hope
it
not.
broke him. It broke him. It broke Dustin Diamond. Good for you, Brad.
Good job, Brad.
Remember I sent him an apology postcard? You did.
I don't remember that, Brad. Okay, I do kind of remember that now.
That'd be awesome if he did. If he did that, that would be great if he had done that.
That is my brother to a T. My brother is the most thoughtful person you can imagine. So,
and I can't really blame your brother either, because when you're kids, you don't know the actress's name. You go by the character's name.
Screech.
You always go. That's always the case. That's unfortunate. That's the stigma actors get when they become famous, is that you're forever going to be that character if you don't break that mold. Now, some actors do transcend where you do remember their names, but if you're a television actor who never reaches outside that television aspect, then no one's gonna know your name. They're gonna remember you as the character of that show.
It's nice now that we have cell phones there, because like if you see someone you recognize, you're like, "Oh," and you look them up real quick, then you can go up to them and, "Oh, Mr. So-and-so, I love your work," and such and such.
Or what they do is you get your phone out and you start recording them. You start recording them and like, "Hey, I love your work," and they love that too when you record them. Word of advice to all you people out there: if you see celebrities, don't ever record them, because it's rude, and you wouldn't like it if someone did it to you. So just
and the thing you're doing is the thing they literally get paid thousands.
Exactly. So
for.
They need to get paid, and they get paid moolah if you're gonna record them. So, but that's it. All right, I think that's
all right, buddy.
The entire thing. So we'll definitely do a part 2 for this. We'll cover the 90s and maybe early 2000s, because I'm pretty sure there's a few sitcoms in the 2000s that came out that were really good. But that was around the time when I stopped watching sitcoms, was around 2000s, because I kind of got burnt out.
Personally. I can roll with even up into the modern day with single camera sitcoms with certain ones. Multi-camera sitcoms, I definitely after the 90s or the 2000s, I never watched Big Bang Theory or How I Met Your Mother or any of that.
Yeah, same here. I never have to. I think the last one, well, we'll talk more about that, but yeah, that's another topic for another stream. So watch out for that, guys. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel Talking Cinema if you want to know more about the history of cinema and breaking down films and sitcoms now, because we've had so much fun. I think we're going to continue doing this because come on, why not, right? And Fresh Prince, Brad, that's 90s. That's the next episode. We'll probably more likely talk about that show when we get to the 90s. Like I said, there was an explosion of sitcoms in the 90s, just everywhere. It was you couldn't. Anyone was in the sitcom. So Ryan, thanks for showing up. Thank you for the kind words. Yeah, it was a great show. It was fun.
Thanks, buddy.
So so like I said, if you guys are interested in hearing about our opinions about films or breaking down films, be it constructive or symbolic, or even the practical side, the creative side, like what Sean does as a cinematographer, breaking down how certain scenes were shot and lit, with certain kind of lenses. Join us at Talking Cinema, and we'll discuss every form of topics. It doesn't really matter. And don't forget to, like I said, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, leave a comment, and we'll be moving to either Tuesdays or Thursdays, depending. So hit the notification bell so you can know when days will show up, and then you could watch us again. And I think that's it. Anything else you want to add, Sean, before we call it a night?
I think I'm good. We're definitely talking about Seinfeld next time.
Yeah, Seinfeld will definitely be, I think, a big topic of discussion. Smell you later.
Go home. Smell you later.
Wait, where's that from? Oh, yeah.
Look in my kingdom.
Fresh
I was
Prince.
finally
Fresh Prince.
there.
Yo home, smell you later. Doom, 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 doom. Doom, doom, doom,
Yeah.
doom, doom.
We're gonna have fun with that one. Actually,
yeah. All right, guys.
yeah,
Go ahead.
we'll have Brad back to talk about that one. Maybe we can have Brad as a guest because Brad loves that show.
Yeah, we'll have you on, Brad, and then you could come in as quickly as a guest, and you could give your 2 cents on Fresh Prince, and I'm pretty sure on other great shows that came out in the 90s. So with that said, guys, you have a safe weekend. Stay safe out there.
Yeah.
Have a great weekend. That's
Be
it.
good.
That's all I have.
As ET once said, be good.
Be good. See you guys. Take care. I hit the wrong button, guys. Sorry.